All right. All right. Well, namaste to everybody. I hope you guys are feeling the amazing, wonderful things that are going on. They're going on so many places and so much, so heavy and so light, and yet at the same time, the whole, you can almost feel a resonance in many situations, many times. I guess I should really speak from my perspective, from what I've experienced. But there is there's just, man, it's just crazy beautiful how all the things that are happening and the revelation that's coming forth and what things are always have been about and always will be about. So we're in a time, if you would, of the remembering, and if you'll take that and hold on to that, then because to say that is pretty simple. Okay, well, we're supposed to remember, but when you think that this is how much you were supposed to remember, and you only find out that it's the universe, there's a lot. And so we've been looking in the Nag Hammadi text, the ancient Gnostic text. Understand this is actually what the Christians prior to Rome taking authority from them, this is actually what they believe. It's what Yahusha taught on many levels. There's an exorbitant amount of knowledge that's coming out about who he was, and that there were texts that proved who he was, whether the letter he wrote that most people have no idea it even existed, and the truths that are coming out about the things that he said that are recorded in the Bible that were taken from Aramaic to Greek and pretty much mutilated. He was a very down to earth person, and so we're looking at the restoration of the soul. I don't know if you have the Nag Hammadi text. If you do, we're in the exegesis on the soul, and the subsection we're going to pick up with. I think I read most of this, but it's just like, I love that every time I read, it's like I get a new dimension, I get a new facet, and there's a lot of that'll depend on what it is that Source has brought into my realm that, over the course of the last week or so. And sometimes it takes a little longer, because sometimes it takes me a little longer to get a hold of a principle or something that I've seen. And so as we begin this journey, continue this journey, it's been beginning for a long time, but as we, for some of you, it may just be beginning. Maybe for some of you, it hasn't begun at all. And all of those things are going to be highly relevant to you as time goes on. And so the restoration of the soul. We have been stripped of many things. We've been robbed of many things. We've been lied to about many things, and now is a time and a season with the elevating of the frequency, the separations that are going on. Many of you might be able, even if you don't understand the metaphysical or the mystical side of it, I think people with common sense, and common sense, just so you know, is very much a part of higher consciousness. So as you begin to look at these things, the separation that's going on in our society, where it just almost really gives you the appearance that on one side one sector is elevating, and then you look at the other sector and you see this horribly dense hate and anger and unhappiness and confusion and all of those things. Those are very relevant when you understand that as someone is inside, so are they on the outside. And if we could really grab a hold of those, I know I was brought up in my whole life, and pretty much all the programming I had and everybody I knew, certainly in Christianity, which is most of the people I knew for most of my life. They have all been, pushed into a belief system and have accepted it. So, we really have to come to a place to where we begin to recognize. How many of you can remember back in your life and you were told, I won't say by who, because I'm sure you quite quickly will know, but the picture that you were giving about how you were to view everything. And so here's kind of how we all were brought up. Don't do this, do that. Don't do this, do that. Don't do this, do that. And then, so that is your programming. That is your subconscious. Those are the things that you have to do the shadow work with. It's not so much that shadow work changes you, but it will change you. Embracing that you have bad programming in your subconscious and that you can then have a desire to not maintain that bad programming. It's really funny. When I was in Christianity, people hated me because I preached Christianity. Now I watch the same people. They're exactly the same people. Nothing's changed except my perception. And now I watch them and I see what Christianity is, and I watch how those people are cleaving to Christianity, the very thing they condemned me about. It's absolutely absurd, but it is reality. And so, your mother, your grandmother, your grandfather, the people you grew up around, aunts and uncles, they all had a perception. And as you begin to come closer to the light and as you begin to remember, because there's really a couple of things going on. One is to first off recognize that you need to awaken, and some of you are not quite there yet. You still think it's okay for you to be whatever it is that you want to be, and it is, but whether or not that's going to be the most fruitful for you might be a question you should ask yourself. So for some, they've not come to the point of even having knowledge that they need to awaken. And it's funny how much of people that I know that I'm watching this in. In fact, often they will go back and parrot things that I taught for 35 years without any knowledge, because they're functioning on subconscious programming. And friends, whether we like it or don't, subconscious programming is how the mass majority of humans live their life. You have a belief system because somebody told you to have that belief system, and in your weakness, whether you liked it or didn't, you accepted it. So here's how it usually goes. Don't do this, do that, don't do this, do that, don't do this, do that. And then when you do that, then they tell you, well, you're not okay. Any of you remember that? You maybe had that from your parents. Well, you're not okay, or that's bad behavior, or on and on and on. And so generally what we do in that time is we then accept their programming even more, because then we live the rest of our life out looking at the fact that we're not okay. And in the process of coming to light does many things more than I could ever explain, but coming to light is really the beginning of coming to the true you. It is maybe some of you have had the point of you've recognized that there's more to life than just what we thought there was. And indeed, there is so profoundly much more than what we thought reality was. So it's not far-fetched when people say that your reality is nothing but a hologram, and your body and what you think is truth is nothing but an avatar. Those are really pretty true metaphoric pictures of reality. And so as you begin to come to that, then some of you, I think have probably made it to the point that you at least recognize that you need to awaken. You recognize that there's something more than what has been put in front of you. And it doesn't mean you are enlightened. It doesn't mean that you even have begun that journey. But the greatest step, or the first step that everybody must take, is first recognizing that there's a need for change. And so as you do that, understanding that all of it is soul. And so all of the parameters change. Where we used to live, and we're going to see here in a minute, it's really the rest of this book is quite profound, because it sounds like they're telling us one thing, and in reality they're telling us something completely different. And if you don't know that, then you will believe one story, which was why it was written like it is. Some of you may not quite, and I listened to a lot of preachers over the course of my life really struggle with telling people that Jesus didn't want you to know the truth because you don't deserve it. And that's, I don't know, that makes for a really heavy place, because there is some truth to that, in a form, I guess, anyways. We're all light, and we're all from the same, just a fractal of source. So then why was it so important? Because not everybody is going to enlighten. Can everyone? Yes. Is the opportunity there? Yes. But not everyone will make that choice. And that's kind of been a revelation. So when you hear a mystical person who simply says, well, I simply am learning how to accept people for what they are, we were taught our whole lives that we're to be a positive vehicle for change, and we're supposed to show people the better way. And unfortunately, there's a part of that what we're really doing is being self-centered control freaks who can't leave people alone and let them find their own path. And that's a huge statement. So as we go through this, everybody's journey is going to be different, and they don't need to do it like you. I'm hearing, and I see it, and I recognize it in people I've known for most of my life, and people I don't know. I see it in them. But how much everyone desires to go about it imposing their thoughts on other people. That is to say, if you somehow are deficit of the thought process I have, then you must be wrong, which is back to what your parents and your grandparents and your aunts and uncles and your friends and your school teachers imposed on you, that you're not okay. Because if I'm not measuring up to your measure, then somehow I must be deficit. Now, watch this go on every day. And I'm here to tell you that you're okay, just like you are. Okay? Does that mean that you should stay that way? Absolutely not. In fact, the only people who will increase their frequency are the people who are willing to do the work to do so. We have a natural frequency. We all function at it. Maybe here's another little piece I'll drop for you. Maybe you have a situation in your life and your frequency is starting to change and you're starting to walk, and you encounter somebody, maybe you've known them for your whole life. And in many cases that will be the case, but you just recognize that the more that you grow, the less you can relate. The more you grow, the less you want to be around them. The more you grow, the less you it's as if you don't have anything in common anymore. And so I would like to say to you, that's okay if it happens, because it's going to, if you continue to awaken to truth. And Alan Watts, a really well-known psychologist, made this statement, and it's helped me a lot. He asked the question, he said, when are you going to quit trying to mean something to people that you don't mean anything to? And that's a very, very, very difficult thing for us to maybe deal with, because we function in a 3D paradigm of linear time where we want to mean something. And I'm going to tell you that those that are ascended have no need to mean anything to you or to anyone else. What is quite important that I mean something to is me. And as we go and as we become our authentic self, now, does this mean that morality is out the door? Absolutely not. In fact, I've said this and I'm going to continue because it's another paradigm. the more that you become higher conscious, the more that you enlighten, whatever term you want to put on it, in the truth and the understanding of being a higher conscious being, the thing that is going on the earth right now is gonna show you that if we're not careful, we'll throw one thing away, and it's the thing that we needed to keep. So here's what's going on. The splitting of the earth that is happening, it's been prophesied thousands of times over the course of thousands of years. And so here's what the thing is going to be. The difference is I don't tell you anymore how you're deficit. It's your responsibility to find that for yourself. And if you don't, then it's obvious that we will not be together much longer, because there will be separation and timelines are shifting more than you have any clue of, whether you recognize it or not. If you're one of those people out there and there's been somebody you've been a lifelong friend and you talk to them on the phone and you don't want to talk to them no more, that's you got a chance to see through the veil. If you continue to do that, that's on you, because they're going to they will affect your frequency. If you hold true to the truth that my frequency is sacred and there is no one that is more important than my frequency, then what that does is put you in a place. Maria Blavatsky talked a lot about this. In fact, she wrote a whole book called The Secret of Silence. And we know nothing about it. I watch people, they can't sit 5 minutes and not make any noise. They either pick their phone up, they talk, they do something. They just can't be quiet. And that's a horrible trait, because you're filling your mind with noise that stops you from ever finding out who you truly are. We find out who we are in the silence. And so when you get these people, you encounter them, it's like, sometimes I just want to put earplugs in my ear and go, can't anybody just be quiet? When did the rules say that we couldn't do that? And the rules didn't. We've been programmed for noise, because noise is static and static affects frequency, and we're a radio receiver. So if they can keep you causing static everywhere you go, then they not only affect you receive no transmission, which is why I believe most people never hear anything from the spirit realm, because they're so full of static that they couldn't hear it when it is coming through. And so they just constantly buzz around in static. And I don't know about you, if the radio's on in your car and you're driving down the road and it's nothing but static, what do? You reach up and you change the channel, or you turn it off. And so those are really, really huge pieces that some of you maybe have already begun to move into that. Others of you may very well in the future. If you do, don't be surprised. It's actually part of a natural progression of increasing. And so you will begin to recognize that people who don't possess we all have a natural frequency. And that's one of the greatest revelations that you can understand, because most of your life you've been trying to adjust your frequency to other people's requirements. Don't do it. Okay? If you can't naturally flow in your frequency mesh, get away from whoever it is, because it's never going to work. The thing that's going on in the spirit realm right now, as people's frequencies are changing, and it's not really, I'm learning that it's not so much that our frequency is changing, it's that we're kind of slowly but surely fine-tuning the knob. And we used to think we were over here on 590 FM or AM, and we thought that we were tuned in, and now we're all the way over here on the opposite spectrum, fixing to switch to FM, and we recognize that we're still out of tune. But over here, I thought I was tuned. And so that is the remembering of the frequency, and you're going to see everything I'm saying today. Somebody will have a revelation very quickly from all of this, because you're going to watch it happen to you, and there ain't nothing you can do when it does. It will be in your face. And so as you go along, then, to protect the sacredcy of your frequency actually is one of the main motivators. So what we're seeing in society, and it's happening all over, is people who are adjusting their frequency and finding their higher frequency are saying in society, this is no longer acceptable. Well, there's a branch of people out there that think that spirituality says you just let people do whatever they want to do and it's okay. And that's not higher consciousness. Actually, that's lower consciousness. Because just allowing people to do to you and impose their wrong, bad, low frequency, density, whatever the situation may be, then you have to deal with the outworking of that frequency. And so as you find your natural frequency, you will also find people that vibrate at your frequency. And so here's what Source is doing. Source is moving people out of your life at the same time he's moving people into your life. And so you will find those people and it will be natural and you will just be able to flow, and they're not that everything's perfect, because that's never going to be the case, but you will be able to come to a common ground. The greatest picture I know of this right now is actually the politics. You have a level that's talking about higher consciousness on some levels. I've heard the word used lately in the last 2 weeks, enlightenment. I've heard the words used of common sense. And then you have this whole other faction that is nothing but static. They're all very low frequency, very base, very self, very I want to take, and corrupt and crooked, and can't figure out what up and down is and right and wrong. And according to Maria Blavatsky, when you find people who don't naturally flow into morality, you can immediately know that those people are very low frequency and separate yourself away from them. Why? Because we have to protect our sacred. This isn't about people. This isn't about anything. This is about you understanding and accepting the responsibility to protect your sacred. And if you're sacred, the temple, as we know in the scriptures, many of you may not quite understand yet that it really was true, that the body is the temple. All of the metaphors out of the Christian Bible that have to do with the temple are all about you, and just as we're going to see today. So just take some of those things. Maybe some of you are encountering, maybe some of you aren't encountering any of it, and that's okay. You're not supposed to at this point, or for whatever reason. You know, that's back to you are what you are, and that's what you are. And I am what I am, and that's what I am, and I'm okay with me. I love me. I find every day that I am true light. And so as you go along, just be really careful that you protect yourself, because there will be things, there are changes, and there's changes in the way you feel, and there's changes in the things you desire to let be around you anymore. And when those things happen, do you have to judge and discern? Absolutely. Spiritual discernment is everything, and very few people have it. So if you're one of those that can discern between good and bad, right and wrong, up and down, yes and no, then you are a very blessed person. Use that along with your intuition. So the restoration of the soul. How do we restore our soul? Our soul has always been here. But we're now talking about a spirit metaphysical thing called restoration of the soul. And really, you're going to find that all of the stuff that is being channeled today is all in the scriptures. It's all over the scriptures. And for me, studying and listening and learning and watching and observing has been really amazing, because I see those principles that I knew in Christianity, under Christianity, and I see the falseness of them, but I also see the reality of them functioning in the world right here in which we live in. And it is true that everything that we need is in us. That says a lot, but so restoration of the soul. As long as the soul keeps running here, and you'll see how many of the things that I said today set the stage for what's being said here. As long as the soul keeps running here and there, having sex with whomever she meets and defiling herself. So we now have a soul, our internal hidden being that you can't see but you know exists. As long as that continues to do this, she will suffer what she deserves. Because remember, as you are inside, so is your life outside. If you are in chaos inside, I guarantee you, you live in chaos in your outside world. If you are in confusion inside, you live in a world of confusion. And so that's exactly what they're saying is the mirror picture, that your life mirrors you. I shared, I think, on Wednesday night, that if you would grab a new revelation about every time that people do things that make you angry, and I say every time, but I use that loosely. It's not going to be maybe every single specific time. It will be the mass majority of times when you see things that anger you and other people. The source put that person in front of you to show you you. But we're really hard-headed and we're egotistical and we know everything and it's everybody else. It's never me. That's why you don't believe that somebody can walk in your house and shoot you with a gun after you saw it on the news, because that never happens here. And in reality, the truth is that on many levels it's happening all the time. Maybe not the physical act, but the spiritual act. And so she will suffer what she deserves. Ponder that. See, the universal law is that whatever, it is karma in a nutshell. Karma is not necessarily going away. The people who will be high frequency, and when the dimension split happens, which is not going to be far, when the dimension splits and those people are no longer visible to lowered frequency people, then that will be the fulfillment, and for those high frequency people will be the end of karma. That is to say, they will only do right, so the only karma that they could possibly receive would be good karma, if you want to use that term. And so she will suffer what she deserves. But when she perceives the trouble she's in, you could call that a form of the beginning of awakening. So here's the person. The person says, something's not right, and I don't like how things are going, and it's now time for me to begin to look for something else that explains why I keep going through this. Some of you haven't made it to that point, I'm sure. Some of you may have, for sure, as well. And so she will suffer what she deserves, but when she perceives, so it's only when perception. Did you notice the world didn't have to change? The only thing that changed was a perception in your mind. That's all. That's all that it takes to begin the journey, first of awakening to a point that you can even recognize that you need to begin to remember. So these things, my journey and my look and watching has really been pretty much, has been stages. And so I said it in the past, Source was with me and speaking with me when I was a sinner. Then Source was with me and speaking with me when I was in Christianity, and then Source is with me and speaking to me now. What's the common denominator? Source has always been with me, and it had nothing to do with any of that stuff. And so for all of you that think that being spiritual because somebody babbles in a language, and I will say this to those of you who knew me as a Pentecostal, it's been a weird manifestation in the last month. There's almost a day that doesn't go by that I don't speak in tongues multiple times just out of the blue. And the first time it happened, it freaked me out because I haven't done this in 15 years. And man, now it's starting to happen multiple times every single day when I'm in my silence by myself, working, building a gun, doing something, and I'm in communion with the spirit realm. It's really been amazing that all of a sudden I'm beginning to speak. And then I go back and I read Maria Blavatsky's stuff, Helena Blavatsky's stuff, and she spoke 7 different languages that she never knew. She just knew them. So there's something that's also tied with language that has to do with our spiritual significance. And so, but when she perceives the trouble she's in, so you have to perceive first, and weeps before the Father and repents. Now see, that sounds very Christianese, and in fact it is. Not everything that's in the Bible needs to be thrown away. Many of those things need to also be grabbed a hold of, maybe in ways that you never did, because truthfully, most of the people I knew never repented in the first place. I've watched people that have wept and cried for their sin for years, and they've never done a thing to change it. Repentance means stop what you're doing. They never repented. They're still not repentant. They still do the same things they did, and then they want this difference. And you can't have it. You can never have it. Unless. So here. So, when she perceives the trouble she's in, there are people who will perceive the trouble they're in and do nothing to change that trouble. So, not everyone fits in this. This is about a very specific branch of person. And so, when she perceives the trouble she's in, your inner soul, the feminine, remember this is also a rejoining of the masculine and feminine as part of becoming higher consciousness, and she weeps before the Father and repents, the Father will pity her. But you notice there was a whole string of things she had by her own choice had to come to revelation and perceive, and then she had to take action. And nobody can help her with that. Your soul, not a female. Although females have souls too. And so when that happens and you repent or you stop, I pondered this. Addiction is a very powerful, strong force, but I will tell you something that's stronger than addiction. Stronger than addiction is conviction and consciousness. Greg Allman, who was some of you may know of him, he was an amazing musician. He was in and out, he was strung out on heroin for most of his life. He was an alcoholic. And I got to listen to him talk for an hour of how he overcame. You know how he overcame? He didn't know what he was saying, but I do now. I totally understand what Greg Allman went through. He went through an awakening. He didn't know it. And the problem is that people all along through time have been going through awakenings and nobody knows what it's about. And so when Greg awakened, Greg said, this isn't okay anymore, and I refuse to accept this in my mind. And the minute he did, he quit heroin. That's one of the most beautiful stories in the world. See, we really have lived our life believing that if you're an alcoholic because you're weak. And I guess there is some pieces to that. Or maybe not that you're so weak, let's put the blame on the alcohol. It's just so strong. And in reality, quitting wasn't anything but a decision that you never made. Everything is decision. And so he will when she repents, the Father will have pity on her, understanding there is no Father, there is only the universal. The teaching that I read recently about Yahusha and what they're now finding out from going back to the Aramaic and what he truly said in the Lord's Prayer. And I hate to tell you guys this, but not one word that's in your Bible was actually in the Aramaic. They totally wrote that. Nothing to do with God. It was about you enlightening. The prayer that we have to do is inside of us. And so, when you do that, when you stop, then there will be pity. He will make her womb turn from outside back to the inside. So in other words, your womb has been exposed on the outside of you, and the womb being the symbol of creation, that must then, the creation must turn back inside of you before there will be any change. In case you didn't know it, they're laying out awakening here in a nutshell. And so he will make her womb to turn from the outside back to the inside, which will then manifest back on the outside as a totally different person. So that soul will recover her proper character. And it's funny that they would use the term character, because character is a direct tie to morality, and all you need to do is watch people's character to know about their spiritual state. It is not so with a woman. The womb of the body is inside of the body like the other internal organs, but the womb of the soul is turned to the outside like a male sex organ, which are external. When the womb of the soul, by the Father's will, turns to the inside, she is baptized, and at once she is free of the external pollution forced upon her. Wow. Did you hear that? That's why someone can begin to awaken and Father will bring them. I'm starting to believe quite drastically that nothing happens in life accidentally and that everything was orchestrated in time, including awakenings. And so, when the womb of the soul by the Father's will, that's a significant, really significant statement, by the Father's will turns to the inside, she is baptized. So yet again, John standing at the water was just a metaphor. What was really important was that about the Spirit coming down and resting on Yeshua, which had nothing to do with the Holy Spirit you've been taught your whole life to believe in. And at once she is free of the external pollution that was forced upon her. Wow. So this is some of that pre-programmed stuff that I'm telling you about, at least that part, the programming, subconscious programming that you function in, which is what determines who you are. That's how you view yourself. This is me. I know a lot of women, well, I'm blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you're not. You just bought the BS line that they fed you as a kid, that's what a good woman was supposed to be, and you faked the whole thing. And so now that's part of you, and that's what you think is reality, and in reality, that's not you at all. But as long as you hold that reality, that's exactly who you will stay. So everyone can change, but everyone won't choose to. And so, when the womb of the soul by the Father's will turns to the inside, she is baptized, and at once she is free of external pollution forced upon her. And that's what's happening right now. Just as dirty clothes are soaked in water and are moved about until the dirt is removed and they are clean, the soul is cleansed so that she may regain what she had at first. Her former nature, and she may be restored. So everything that I've said to you has been summed up exactly correct. That is the true baptism. Has nothing to do with going to your church, has nothing to do with going to the river, has nothing to do with getting wet. All that was supposed to be is actually initially was used by John and Yeshua, and Paul was used as an example to the other people that this person, and so get this, it had nothing to do with Christianity. That was an outward sign that this person is a light worker, if you would use that terminology. That's actually what they told the people of that day, but the memo got lost a long time ago in our society, and now, because you did a water baptism, you somehow are some spirit thing in Christianity. Total deception on every level. Has nothing to do. If you never get baptized in water, it's not going to stop you from being eternal. If you were to be baptized in water and there was no baptism as I've just shared with you, it would mean zero anyways. You just went swimming. Okay? So if somebody out there has never been baptized, please don't get the rush. If you need to do it, do it. I mean, I've baptized them in muddy creeks, and I've baptized them on church party days, and I've done a lot of those things, but none of it accomplished the purpose of what true baptism is, which is inside. And so then she will begin to rage like a woman in labor, who wreathes and rages at the time of delivery. But since she is female and cannot conceive a child by herself, her Father sent her from heaven, her man, her brother, the firstborn. The bridegroom came down to the bride. She gave up her former whoring, and she cleansed herself of the pollution of adulterers. And she was restored to be a bride. She cleansed herself in the bridal chamber. She filled it with perfume, and she sat there awaiting the true bridegroom. Wow. So when I say, and maybe some of you are experiencing it, I certainly have on 1,000 different levels, but when I say that these things happen, and they happen inside of you, but they change the outside of you just as much as they do the inside, I guarantee you people will begin to notice something about you is different. And that's the preparation that is being talked about here. She no longer went around the marketplace, so let's look and see now the manifestations. I'll say that. This is the manifestation of the soul, the inner soul. It can be in any body, so it doesn't matter who the person is. I can use me and it's fully acceptable, okay? So I don't make anybody mad because I'm picking on them. She no longer went around the marketplace having sex with whomever she desired. Well, the metaphor, the picture of having sex is you wantonly doing all those things that are not light. That is the sex. You whore yourself with all the things that are outside of what light is. And whether, you know, there's some that think that you can do whatever and it's okay. It's not so. I don't care. I mean, they can tell you that and you can buy it, but it ain't so. And so she no longer went. So was there an immediate change? Did y'all notice how just in the course of this little thing there was, boom, something happened inside of her and immediately everything changed? That's also what Paul was talking about when he was talking about an awakening. Not Christianity, not religion. He was talking about an awakening. And when the awakening comes, things change. If you are resistant to changing, it may be very difficult. I didn't say it's impossible, because it's not. But it may be very difficult for you to come to a place of wanting to put your resistance down and allow the transformation of awakening to come to you. It's here, it's ready, it's active, but you're resisting it. And that actually happens quite a lot. And so, I love the statement here about she filled it with perfume and she sat there waiting. So you see two things. You see beauty begin to come, the perfume, and you begin to see what? I talked about this before I started. Silence. What did she do? She was filled with beauty. She was filled with a fragrance, and she sat quietly. Those two go together with awakening. She no longer went around the marketplace having sex with whomever she desired, but she stayed and she waited for him, saying, when will he come? And everyone who's awakening has wondered, and I know I have a lot of times, well, when's it going to manifest? Source speaks something to me about this one's coming or that one's coming or this thing is coming. And I'm like, when, Lord? When will he come? And she feared him. For she did not know what he looked like. She no longer remembered from the time she fell from her father's house. This is where you get to see a piece in these ancient texts of manifesting of the term that I used of remembering. So inevitably, all of this change brought her to a place where she recognized that she did not remember who she even really was. And that's where most humans are. And so, yet, by the Father's will, she dreamed of him like a woman who loves a man. And she pined in her heart for the true fullness of higher self, which is the completion of the God source that's in each of us. So then by the Father's will, the bridegroom came down to her in the bridal chamber that had been prepared, and he decorated the chamber. This marriage of the soul is not like a marriage of the flesh. In a marriage of the flesh, those who have sex with each other become satiated with sex. Okay? You will find that as this happens, the morphing of masculine and feminine in some ways will diminish other natural desires. And so they leave behind them the annoying burden of physical desire. And they turn their faces from each other. This marriage of the soul is different. When the partners join with each other, they become a single life. Masculine, feminine makes one human. Women are not complete and men are not complete. We are only complete when we attain and obtain both the masculine and the feminine. That is completeness. That is the original intent. As I shared with you a few weeks ago when we read the document that tells you that they took Hua out of the rib, had to come out of the inside of the man. The metaphor there is they actually removed the feminine aspect, the loving, the kindness, the forethought, all of those things that a good woman is to a man. Those things were taken from a man. He didn't lose them. He's not some moron because he doesn't think like you. He's missing a part of what he is to be complete. And if you're a smart woman, you'll recognize that, and instead of it being a detriment, it would be a benefit. Because now you can show true mercy and true compassion for the one that is with you, because he is hurting as much as you can never possess the masculine. No matter how much testosterone and how much you tape your boobs down, you can never possess the masculine. Sorry, folks, it's all over our society if you don't see it for yourself. Society, humanity as a whole, is screaming for restoration of that which has been robbed from us. And so she no longer remembered from the time she fell. You don't remember when you were light. That's why you hear those that are knowledgeable talking about what we really are in is not the awakening. The awakening is when you recognize something ain't right. And if that's all that you're aspiring to, it does you no good to walk around and go, well, I know everything's not right. Big deal. Who gives a crap? Everybody knows that. Is that where you're going to stop? Is that the level you're going to stop? Better that we should begin the awakening process to begin to so that we can come to the place that we begin remembering. First, we have to open our eyes, and then we have to remember. You do it every morning when you get up. It's the same process laid out in your everyday life. You wake up in the morning. What's the first thing you do? You awaken. You open your eyes. You come to consciousness. What's the second thing you do? Immediately, most people either pick their phone up or they begin thinking about all the crap that they did wrong yesterday and all the crap they're going to try to do right today. That's the remembering. You're remembering what your life was. Spiritual people are losing that. And so then by the Father's will came down in the bridal chamber that had been prepared, and he decorated the chamber. My friend, the decoration that's going on is the decoration inside of those that are attaining remembering. That's how we decorate ourselves. We have a very specific appearance that we are supposed to function by the laws of nature and the laws of the universe. Source is looking for something specific, and if you're not that, then your frequency is not where it should be. That's huge. So, it's a metaphor, it's only a picture. And they will become one. That's a pretty profound thing when you think about it. All through time, women have been trying to be as good as men, and men have never figured out why women couldn't be as good as them. And if you're looking at that in a physical realm, then that's one thing. What if you looked at it as, in reality, the words that Adam said was actually how to become completeness? And that was, I guess, there's a kind of maybe a hidden part of that actually does happen. When people of like frequency meet, they call it twin flame, they call it soulmates. When those two people meet, they almost become one. They finish each other's sentences, there's a very close connection. Why? Because we all had that at one time. And not only that, guess what, guys? We're going to have that again, those who remember. Part of what's happening, and they're talking about it in the spirituality realms a lot, about the feminine. And of course, this is mostly women that are talking about how God is making them as good or better than men are, which is also physical, and you're a very simplistic spiritual mind that thinks you're elevated. You should stop that nonsense. How about that we all, for the collective good of the all, how about we all were to be able to come complete? How many women out there would say that wouldn't it be amazing if there was a man that had more forethought, and he was nurturing, and he was kind, and he had loving, and he was, what woman wouldn't desire that in our society? Because I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of men are just morons. They're brain dead morons, and they don't have two forethoughts to put together. Known lots of them. Okay, maybe I've been one most of my life. But the reality is no matter where we are, we don't have to stay there. And so they become a single life. It's that simple, friends. We right now are half people. You are a half person. And so thus the prophet said about the first man and woman, they will become a single flesh, which isn't talking about the physical. In the spirit realm, it's talking about they will become one flesh, they will become one soul, masculine, feminine. That's why Yahusha said in his teachings that there will be no man or male. There will only be one. When he says that, he's referring to this. And so these partners were originally joined to each other when they were with the Father. So dig this. Every one of us are all light. And everyone that does remember, and everyone whose frequency is brought back up to their frequency level, and everyone who is exposed to what truth is, you're going to be complete. When you go into Father, you will be. When you go into Source, when you go into the All, you will not be lacking anything. You will be, yet again, you will have undone what the Archons did to Adam, and you will be a whole and complete. Why do you think all of these near-death experiences, people go and they feel so fulfilled? Because for the first time in their life, they experienced what it's like to be whole. You're not whole, friends. It's beautiful. It's not something you did. This isn't some sin that humanity committed by being born a human. You had nothing to do with it. It was a trick that was played against you to divide us. And so these partners were originally joined to each other when they were with the Father. So when we were light, and when we leave this physical body and we return to our higher conscious self, we are, yet again, we are complete. That's your total consciousness. The man, her brother, this marriage has brought them together again, and the soul has joined her true love and real master, as it is written, the master of the woman is her husband. Gradually, she recognized him. She was happy again. And she wept in his arms when she remembered the disgrace of her former widowhood. You want to talk about why is there so much joy, and why in the high frequency realm of those that are going to be chosen and are going to be moved into the dimensional shift that is coming, that will be higher frequency being? Why is it such wonderful and bliss? If you just took some time and watched some things on YouTube about what's going to happen when the dimensional shift happens, because all of the density and all of the people that are density that I'm talking about, folks, those people are not going to be there to be robbing you anymore. Okay? Everyone around you is going to be functioning at the same frequency that you are. There is no derision. There is no schism. There is no drama. There is no pain. There's only love and light and peace and joy and happiness. And the beauty is we can choose to begin instituting that into our life right now, but it is a decision that we must make. It is a path, a life, a walk, a purpose, an intent, an alignment. I must align with what I was originally created to be. So look at it like this. There's a line that runs straight. And that line, you notice this principle a lot in the Bible. It says neither to the left nor to the right. What Source is telling you, anytime you read that in the Christian Bible and you read the statement, Yahusha said it, that you're neither to turn to the left nor to the right, what he's telling you is either one of those are out of alignment. And so Source is calling people who will to come back into alignment. And an alignment is standing in perfect agreement with him. And if you choose not to do that, then your frequency is off. And you will be living a lot more human life. I don't want to live a lot more human life. And so these partners were originally joined to each other when they were with the Father. So we were both masculine and feminine before we were divided. The marriage has brought them together again. We are at the place of the marriage. Why do you think Christianity, they don't understand what they're saying, but they're still teaching the truth, which is the marriage supper of the Lamb, the bride and the groom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, the bride and the groom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, the bride and the groom. If they knew what they were saying, then they may have a chance to be saved. But what they're really saying is, hey, everybody, we should begin to celebrate because eventually the masculine and the feminine are going to be rejoined, and we will once again be whole beings. Wow. Talk about going through the roof. Exuberant. Happy. Kind. Peaceful. Loving. Is that you? Ask yourself that. Who are you? If I ask you who you were, would you tell me who you are as the being that you are now, or would you tell me the being that you see yourself inside of you being? And as we go forward, you'll find out what I just said is absolutely correct. So, gradually she recognized him. She was happy again. Do you see what society is brainwashing women, that men are somehow something that are to be hated at multiple levels? Do you know why? Because the archons are still working, dear one. They screwed you over for all of humanity, and if they can continue to do that and keep you at low density, they will keep you over there acting exactly like a stupid human like you have been your whole life. And you will like it because that's what you think reality is. There are those who do not agree with that. So, she was happy again. So this birthing, this remembering of enlightenment isn't a negative thing. It's actually something to bring joy and mirth, which is also what affects your frequency. If you continue to stay in the woe me, pity, self-centered, it's everybody else's fault syndrome, you will stay in that syndrome. It's only when you begin to understand that you're not a victim of anything. You made every one of these choices about the pain you were going to suffer, about the things you were going to go through. You totally came into this body knowing what you were going to go through. Just because you don't now doesn't mean that it's changed. Just means you once again do not remember the contract you wrote before you came into this human body. That's all it means. That's why the remembering is so important. There was a lesson you felt like you needed to learn before you inhabited this human body in which you inhabit now. A lesson you wanted to learn. And if you begin to look at your life and all the negative things in it as a lesson that you chose that you needed to learn, I guarantee you it will change the way you even look at the bad things in life. And so gradually she recognized she was happy again, and she wept in his arms when she remembered the disgrace of her former widowhood. When she began to have revelation, then she was drawn to, not repelled from. And she wept, and they came together. And what happened? She felt full. She adorned herself even more. She didn't do less, she became more. So that he might be pleased to stay with her, because she remembered what it felt like to have that piece of her that was missing, and after having it back, she doesn't ever want to lose it again. And the same is going on here, so just so you know, from the masculine aspect. And so, hear, my daughter, and see and give ear, and forget your people and your father's house. Forget it. It's funny, there for 2 or 3 years, some of you probably can't forget how much I kept saying that Source was telling me about separation. And I got condemned by a lot of people. Oh, you're trying to make me believe they're family. And what I hate to say that it took me this long, but I'm a little slow sometimes. All of that time, the spirit universe was telling me that it was me that needed to separate from those people. They were low density, low frequency. They're all gone, or most of them are gone, and everything changed. Some of them, we even had it to the point that we remarked the minute that they quit coming here, all of a sudden there was a spiritual shift. Source was telling me they're the source of the problem. Get them out of your life. They're affecting your frequency, and your frequency is sacred. And if you want to continue and be successful with me, you must learn how to be sensitive to the frequency and what other beings cause to happen to your frequency. When I said to you that the frequency is sacred, folks, I've never said a word that was any more huge than that one. And if you begin to judge your life according to the sacredness of your frequency, it doesn't mean you can't go through problems and you can't overcome. It doesn't mean everything's going to be a joyride. It does mean that you will begin to see and become sensitive to people who bring negativity into and affect your frequency. Deal with the problems. You should be strong enough to. But recognizing that I don't want more of this and dealing with something that is here now is a totally different thing. Now, if you go seeking out that angst, then that's on you. So hear, my daughter, see and give ear, and forget your people in your father's house, for the king has desired your beauty. He is your master. Where does the kingdom of God live, you might ask? Where does the kingdom of God live, does the Bible? Where did Yahusha tell us that the kingdom of God lives? He says what? He says it lives in me, doesn't it? The king is in the house, folks. Her master has her turned her face from her people, and many adulterers with whom she once was. There's now where it includes your family in the event that your family are these people. But it's not just your family. Neither was I ever trying to separate any family. But in every one of those situations, the people that I was talking about at that time were affecting the frequency of the people who were affecting my frequency. And by getting rid of one of them, I got rid of all of them. Thank you. And so her master has turned her face from her people and many adulterers with whom she once was, to devote herself to the king, her real master, and to forget the house of the earthly father. And I've known lots of people who would not do this. With whom things went badly for her. But to remember her Father in heaven. Where's our Father in heaven? He's in us. So also it was said to Abraham, leave your country and your relatives and your father's house. Just so you know, Abraham was a metaphor. I'm not real convinced that he did exist, but if he did exist, he was a powerful spiritual man. He was a mystic. He wasn't what you think he was, but all of the things that we're told that we can manifest, Abraham manifested. So, rebirth of the soul. When the soul adorned herself again in her beauty, she was eager to enjoy her beloved. He also loved her. And when she made love with him, she received from him the seed, which is the life-giving Spirit. So for those of you who think that it's just gushy or whatever, is it necessary for us to be duality and have masculine and feminine? And the answer unequivocally is absolutely. Absolutely. And so she bears good children by him, and she brings them up. Things that happen in your life. She is a creator. He is a creator. We are co-creators with Source for our reality. You're doing that now. You've been creating. Everyone is a creator. Nobody is not a creator. There has never been a day when you weren't creating. The only question that you have, dear one, to answer and find peace with yourself is, what is it that I am creating? Am I creating unhappiness? Am I creating pain? Am I creating shock? Am I creating hate? Am I creating this? Or am I creating love and I'm creating light? And if you wake up every day totally with the sole intent of creating peace, love, and light, if you don't do anything but those three things, which is why I gave you all that song, that I am peace, I am love, and I am light, and you can say those words and they mean nothing, but the minute that you begin to see yourself as those three things, your world will radically change. And so, the soul needs to regenerate itself. The marriage is consummated by the Father's will, and the soul needs to regenerate herself and become as she formerly was. So the soul stirred, she received the divine from the Father that she might be restored and returned to where she was before. Now listen, here's the piece. This is resurrection from the dead. So all of you who've been sitting around waiting for the mark of the beast and all of those other things, I'm sorry, folks, none of that crap is going to happen like you think it is. Christianity told you what that meant, and it's not what it meant. Okay? The resurrection that Paul was talking about ain't got a dang thing to do with people coming out of the grave. You can sit on them and wait for them as long as you want to, but I promise you they're not there. What a day. We really would have a Halloweeny day if all the souls that was in the ground came up, because there'd be a whole bunch of skeletons dancing around. Now, that might be pretty cool. I might be into that one. So listen to this, though, friends. This is resurrection from the dead. What is happening right now, and it's why I showed you in other Nag Hammadi texts that we've already read, where they talked a lot about the resurrection. Yahusha said, you must become the resurrection right now before you die. Resurrection is not after you die and you're resurrected. The resurrecting is the resurrecting, or can I say it like this? The remembering of the light that you are. That is the resurrection. So can I tell you, the resurrection's going on everywhere around us. There are people resurrecting all over the place. This is freedom from captivity. We've been in captivity. All this time, we've been locked into a prison of I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know. That's why everybody all through the ages have always asked the question. Even Moses, I showed y'all that a few weeks ago. What did he do? He's sitting on top of the mountain. He's talking to Source. And what's the question he asked him? Who am I? Source says, I am. And you are. So when I say I am, there's no reason to be concerned with that. It's the truth. And so are you. And so, the resurrection is from the dead. This is freedom from captivity. This is ascent to heaven. So the resurrection actually is the ascension that you hear everybody. When you see a yogi and a yogi is talking, that yogi has resurrected. In other words, he's reawakened to what he truly is. And if we ever fully understand who we truly are, we'll have no idea about how powerful we really are as creative beings. We create whatever our mind chooses to create. That's the power that we possess. That's why we scare the archons. That's why we scare the Anunnaki. It's because the creative power, if we ever get out of the sleep stupor and awaken our minds, this world has no hope. It will be the most amazing place you can imagine because of the spirit and the light of the people. And so, this is ascent to heaven. You want to know how to ascend? I just told you how. That is the way up to the Father. So there's no deviation here about I misspoke or I twisted something. I didn't have to twist anything. Everything that I've been teaching is being laid out right here in front of you. Verified by ancient documents. Therefore the prophet said, my soul praise the Lord. All within me praise his holy name. My soul praise God, who forgave all my sins, who healed all my sicknesses, who freed your life from death, who crowns you with mercy, and who satisfies your longing with good things. Your youth will be renewed like an eagle's. Wow. Can I tell you, dear one? That's on slate for all of those people who come to the remembering. Are you hearing me? Somebody ought to get happy. My God, what the heck why are we so scared and full of fear and upset and twisted up tight? For some people, it's a foreign thing if they laugh. They can't laugh at anything except something that's dirty because they're dirty inside. And that's what brings them mirth, is dirtiness. Light workers laugh at things that are light, that bring beauty and love and peace and goodness. And they abhor the other things. That's part of the transformation. So when the soul is renewed, she will arise and she will praise the Father and her brother by whom she was rescued. In this way, through rebirth, the soul will be saved. This is not because of practical lessons or technical skills or learned book. Rather, it is the grace of the Spirit. It is the gift of the merciful God, for it is from above. Thus, the Savior calls out, no one can come to me unless my Father draws and brings that one to me. I myself will raise that one on the last days. And that, my dear friend, is the true understanding of the Christ consciousness that is infecting humanity at this very time. It ain't got a thing to do. Jesus has come back. The Christ consciousness has arrived. People are everywhere awakening to the Christ consciousness that they are. That is the miracle. So I hope you guys will be blessed with that. I know I've covered a lot of area without as much depth as I would love to, but I would have to have another lifetime. Maybe I'll have to incarnate again so I can actually voice. I came in to help people in this time. And so, blessings to each and every one of you. What an amazing day. Look at yourself in your mind, and look at yourself and begin to dare to believe, or even see yourself. For some of you, it may be very difficult. It is the practical outworking of the thing I was telling you about the mirror is actually a physical manifestation of the thing that's going on constantly in you. You don't realize it, but you've been looking at a mirror your whole life. And everything you hate that you see in other people is what you are, because you're looking in a mirror. When you look in a mirror, you don't see other people. You only see you. That's the problem. Some people haven't even made it to that state. They're still looking at other people in ignorance that they're really looking at themselves. And so I hope you guys will take some of this to advantage. I've been watching the synchronicities and things, sources begin. He told me he was bringing people to me that they were already on their way, and I've already begun to meet some of them. And so I hope that you will. I hope that you will breathe this in. Maybe spend 5 minutes, just simple 5 minutes, and look inside yourself. You might be amazed at the beauty you can find. Namaste. We'll be back in just a few minutes with some music. Well, what a wonderful day and what an amazing blessing. Are you feeling the light just bouncing around inside of you? I hope you are, because it's really amazing when you do. The first song we're going to set about for y'all is a song that's talking about, I really think there's a spiritual significance in a way to this. The song is called The Best Seat in the House. And I think for each and every one of us, we can all attain the best seat in the house. And that is being in the place and the perspective where we finally come to peace with not only who, if you would, who God is, but also come to peace with who I am. Best seat in the house.
You ain't been dealt a good hand. The odds are against
you have beginning to come to the conclusion that none of this is about our harm, demise, destruction. This is about revealing to this whole earth, and it's happening all over the earth. It's so glorious on many levels. But revealing to humanity the greatness that you really are. I know some of you may have problems with that. Maybe you've lived your whole life, and maybe in some situations there's people who've been beat down their whole life and told that they're useless and they're never going to be good enough and they're never good, and constantly. And I know that there are plenty of people on this earth who live in that place. And I would like to inform you today that none of those words are true. Have you maybe accepted those words and created that reality? And the answer might very well be true. But I also hope that you heard today that the minute that we begin to stop all of those thought processes and begin to see the light that we truly are, the world will also adjust itself. The universe listens to us. Ponder that for a minute. I am such a significant spiritual being, and you are such a significant spiritual being, that the universe listens to you. Wow. That's pretty beautiful. To me, it is anyway. And so we have to then take on the responsibility, just as we have to hold our frequencies sacred. We have to also, the next song fits with that. There are some things that we have to be cautious and careful of, and one of those things is pride. The Bible wasn't wrong, it's metaphysical when we were told in the Bible that what happens when pride comes is destruction follows it. And so in our situation at the same time now, what we're doing is we've been told to live according to pride and forget this sacred over here, our frequency, and now we're starting to learn that we need to protect this sacred frequency over here, and what we really need to learn is to forget and do away with pride. Wall with pride. Don't let it happen to you.
Believe
build it. Don't do it. Just say no. I promise you.
No.
It'll be well worth your effort to say no. Sounds like another phrase that we use often. Indeed. Well, the next song that we're going to do speaks on a different level. It's more, maybe what all of us, I guess at some level, inside, a craving that we've had for quite some time. Maybe you're one of those people and you've just inherently known inside of you that there has to be more to life. I experienced that, and I've found out through my studies that there are lots of people that have experienced that. It's not that it's just a spiritual discernment, I think, that says there's got to be more than this. We live our lives, we go through turmoil. Yes, we have some happiness, but we go through pain and we go through suffering. What's it all about? Maybe you've asked yourself that. What is it all about? I know since the beginning of time, people have been asking that question. And so now we're thankfully to a place where we can begin to see what it's all about, and we can then begin to open our eyes and recognize, what if what I was interested in giving back to humanity was the name of this song? What if, as I receive more love, I also will receive more power, and as I receive those things freely, I also give those things more love, more power. today to be able to walk in to the fullness and the joy and the light that we are, that we always have been, whether we knew it or not was irrelevant. The reality is that was the truth. Was it our reality? No. We're functioning. Now we must begin the reconstruction, if you would, of tearing down the old reality that we had created for ourselves, that was our makeup of who our personality is and the beliefs and the thoughts that we have, and begin to replace those with the new construction of the being that is the light of divine. What an amazing thought. I am divine. Just say it if you dare to. I am divine. I'm not waiting to be. I don't need to be saved, and I don't need to be, I don't need to go to heaven and be judged before I become divine. Dear one, we are all divine right this very second. What an amazing transformation that will bring about if you will allow it. Well, with all of this stuff that's going on, the next song is in honor of all of the stuff that's going on, dear friends. And the name of the song is simply this: we gotta roll with the changes.
As soon as you are able, so as I am willing to make
Hallelujah. Keep on rolling. Gotta go with the flow. We'll be back in just a minute. Well, blessings to each and every one of you. I hope you guys have. I hope you've actually heard, not just heard, but you've heard. And so, we're going to take a look. Certainly, I've given you plenty to revolutionize your life over and with. And so, we're going to just look tonight. We're going to pick back up where we were the last time in James Allen's book. This is the sixth night and the sixth morning, and just nice little peaceful affirmations. For those of you who maybe came along and you didn't hear it, I would encourage anybody who's willing to begin the journey of heart, of coming to yourself. If you haven't, then I certainly would encourage you to take a look honestly at yourself and ask yourself, am I just being the puppet that I was created to be? Or am I beginning to recognize that I am me? And some of you may make that transition and some may choose not to. I don't know the answers to that. Obviously you have to know that. But for those of you who do, quite powerful. You know, one of the things that I learned about affirmations are mental candy for people who don't know what they believe, and for people who do know what they believe, they're the ability to change the world. And so, as is always the case, it's easy oftentimes to say words, but not always so easy to actually give that full experiential depth that a person might possess. And so when you begin to see yourself truly in the light of Source, then everything that has to do with manifestation comes from your feelings. This has been a quite weird journey, because for so long, you know, we read the Bible under organized pictures of what these things mean, and it's funny because they're the same words, but now the words that Yeshua was teaching aren't remotely close to what I was told that they were in Christianity. And there is something more intrinsically when you inside in your higher self begin to see, begin to experience, begin to feel, begin to believe. And that's why the piece I shared with y'all a few weeks ago about faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God, but hearing doesn't have anything to do with your ears. I don't know. I don't think I could count the number of times that Source has given me knowings just inside of me, and I intrinsically knew the answer without any basis of knowledge, so to speak. And that's because I heard him. And so for those of you who may not understand, there is a synergistic place with the spirit realm that we can reside, and it is a form of telepathy. I'm really excited about as the ascension happens, because one of the things that is believed that we're going to do again is we are going to return to that. It will be such purity in the high frequency people that move into that dimension that there would be no opportunity for anyone to be able to lie, because everybody hears everything. And so maybe that kind of shocks you. Maybe that even scares you, because some of you don't. But see, here's the problem. That's because of who you are or what you possess inside of you. If you were pure and if you were totally clean, you wouldn't be scared for people to know what you're thinking. And so there's as we saw with her, there is a changing, there is a cleaning, there is a swapping out. Paul talked about all of this as well. And so now we're coming into a time when it's beginning to manifest around the world, and it's beginning to affect our world. Uh, if you've looked and seen all the stuff going on in the celestial heavenlies, uh, I mean, you really shouldn't be surprised that should be the case, that we have stars and pieces of things that are coming, and they're not acting like anything. Nothing about today, friend. The veil is being opened up, and nothing about today is what last year was. And so, even more so as we go further, because here's the thing, each one of us was called to be a light. And it's really crazy how when multiple light sources get together, how much power and strength that they actually generate. And each one of these in the collective soul, as people enlighten, they're going to bring more light. Now, the scientific end of this is science already knows that what I'm telling you is true. They've been doing mental games with people for a long time. Situations to where they lock somebody in a room in North America and have them deeply think on something, and they ask somebody a question around the world, and the person has the answer that they got from this person. For some of you, it might seem spacey or woo-woo or far-fetched, but those kind of spiritual manifestations are in the process right now of becoming infinitely more prominent. And just because you don't see it, well, maybe you don't see it because you don't want to see it. Maybe you don't see it because you don't look for it. Maybe you don't see it because you don't research for it. But for those that do, it's obvious that these things are happening and functioning all over the earth, and that we as humans have the power to do those things when we come to the remembrance of who and what we are. And so I'm often blown away with the fact that in the past, ancient history, we know that that humans interacted with animals and had dialogues with them. And so I keep sending messages to my dog, waiting for her. One time I'm gonna get an answer back, and she's gonna go, I really don't like that dog food you've been feeding me, or and I may never see that, and that's okay. I'm not just simply looking for the signs. I'm actually waiting for the day when it does manifest, and I'll know it. But I also send a lot of telepathic messages. So if you guys, sometime you're sitting in your chair at 10 o'clock at night and you're drinking a glass of soda water or lemon water or a cup of tea or something, and all of a sudden something just drops into your mind that Rob's thinking this thing to you, then write me a note or send me a line, because I just sent that message to you. It's not if it's going to happen, friends. It is going to happen. It is already happening, but it has to be between higher beings. And so because people aren't equally at that level, as the dimensional shift happens, all of those people in that dimension will all be at the same frequency. The other people, those things won't function because they will just continue to be just as we've always been, living life of drudgery, wishing and dreaming things would be different, and they're not any different, and suffering with lack and loss and hurt and pain and all those wonderful things that you love so much. But for when the split happens, and if you haven't, you ought to go do some research. You ought to see what the Hopi Indians said. The Cherokee Indians have a prophecy about the splitting of the earth. I believe the Aztec, Olmecs, Mayans had prophecies about the splitting of the earth. You have Helena Blavatsky, you have Edgar Cayce, you have Dolores Cannon, which are more modern people. You have Nostradamus talked about some of these things. So it's not like that the universe hasn't been giving us signals. It's just that we've been not very receptive to accept the signal, and now people are starting to tune their receivers. And so the more that you put intention, that is to say, the more that you focus on your intention in alignment with source, the more that you will begin to tune in your frequency to these little things. For those that don't, I don't think that's a huge surprise. They say, I hope it's a gross disservice, but to be quite honest with you, most spiritual people believe that only about 15% of people are going to graduate from this realm in which we live in, exist in, and move into the separation into the higher frequency. The fifth dimension, if you would, is 5D. And so I hope that you'll come along. It's going to be an amazing time. We're going to get to experience peace and love and light and joy and the things. It was one of the things that is coming for the earth is many of you are worried about the digital stuff, and that may happen on the lower densities, but on the higher densities, it's really funny because it's not going to be about your labor. It's not going to be about what you can do. The payment that the universe pays each individual person that is in that dimension is going to be based off of your frequency. And so if you are functioning at a pure high frequency, then the universe will bless you with abundant provision. Just so you know, that's actually a prophecy that comes out of the Bible when we were told that I would above all things that you prosper and be in good health. All of that is totally dependent upon your soul. And so it was already there thousands of years ago, and you just were told some other nonsense story about what that actually means. But we really need to begin to take it seriously when we read ancient texts, biblical texts, and we see the concept of a soul, because, dear one, it's not the Christian concept of a soul. I've been reading and sharing and teaching you guys what the Gnostics, what Yahusha, what the mystics, what they viewed and how they viewed it, and how much differently it was than Christianity's teaching and modern society. So I hope you guys will pay some heed to that, and hopefully you will begin to get a higher consciousness, and you'll go start paying attention to what you haven't paid attention to. You really should do yourself the service. And so the sixth morning, James tells us like this. It's a very beautiful, it's not going to be a long time and we'll be done here. But he says, in the pure heart, there is no room left where personal judgments and hatreds can find lodgment. Think about that. In the pure heart. So in your pure heart, all of those things, prejudice and race and gender, all of those things have been purged away. And there is no room except for purity. That's pretty beautiful. Could you imagine functioning and living in that society? People who have, there is no gender issue anymore, because we are all masculine and feminine. That's why in the things that I've shared in the past, that's why it's really not that difficult to have had a past life where you were a different gender. I think some of this is popping up in the gender issues that we have. It is very possible that there are people that come into an incarnation and they actually possessed the other gender. That's why one would come in as a child and at an early child age would say to their parent, I am a boy locked in a girl's body, or I am a girl locked in a boy's body. So the things, and we condemn that and cause prejudice, and I'm not speaking on it as the whole, because there's a lot of corruption that goes with that stuff. So please hear me. I'm talking about it on the spiritual, metaphysical level, and if you can separate that between the physical versus the soul or the metaphysical. I think that there have been pieces of all of us who have been those things. And so we have to then begin to decide, is it okay morally? And that can get into a really long conversation that I don't know has a lot of value, to be honest with you. It is what it is. And just as there are children who speak things from past lives, though they haven't been alive but 5 years or 10 years, and yet they can tell stories from the other lives that they lived. If you can account that as being real, then I don't know why it would be any different that somebody came in and said, hey, I made a decision and I came into the wrong body. It's not as fixed as we think it is. We were blessed last night to watch a teaching that had to do with how souls inhabit bodies, and we think that it's fixed because we only function in the third dimension realm of genetics. This is what you would call epigenetics. And the concept of epigenetics is something that is higher than base physical genetics. And so there are many different recorded stories over history of children who actually waited for a specific parent to become available. One story that I heard that's always sat really good with me is there is a man and he has 2 children. And so as he goes along, these children come in and he's raising them, and they get up to, I don't remember what it was, 10, 11, 12 years old, something like that. And there's a conversation that goes on between the dad and the child. One of the children says to the dad, do you remember when, Dad, that I used to sit, you remember when you used to work out in the yard and there was apparently a tree out there and the dad would be out working in the yard, and the child told the dad that they remembered sitting in that tree as a spirit watching him do yard work, and they were so detailed that he knew that they had seen what they told him about. Well, how does a spirit sit in a tree watching a physical human being and then come in and be the child of, because the child was waiting for this person. The person possessed what that spirit needed to attain. And if you're not still to the place where you understand that there is no purpose for us to live as a human except for learning. We come into these bodies to go through all the things that we go through because there is something that we need to experience. And so for most people, that might seem far-fetched, and I will admit that it did seem far-fetched for me, but I've seen too much over the last years to have any problems with knowing that that's true. And so the child that you got was not necessarily fixed. It's quite a strange thing for a parent to think about. This child chose me. I did not choose this child. Now, the genetics maybe of the physical body is one thing, but that could only be deviated if you're still functioning in a carnal realm and you don't understand that even children, if you'll sit down and do it, you actually can see recognition. I did this, I think I shared it once, but it was so beautiful and so profound. I love my beautiful little granddaughter, but I looked my granddaughter in the eyes and I told her, I said, you know that you're an ancient soul, and you cannot imagine how her eyes they lit up, man. They were just like, there was something that went on just simply by looking at her and recognizing that, yes, this is a physical little baby that's 2 years old or whatever, but that has nothing to do with the soul that exists inside of her. And so people come in with all of these stupid ideas about what children are, and none of them are true for the most part, to be quite honest with you, because there's never been a child born on this earth that wasn't ancient. And so if you we raise children, that's why we live in a society and the children are so dumbed down. It's because of the programming of the people that are writing their programs. It's the babysitters that take care of them and feed them a bunch of gobbledygook when they're little bitty kids, because they don't know anything about anything anyways. And so you get that, and then you get the parents, then you get all of these people over here, and they're all sewing this stuff on a paradigm that a child is a baby soul. And it's like, hell, that baby soul's lived 1,000 lives before it came into this body, and you're sitting over here going goo goo gaga. Maybe it really is true that children are capable of learning a lot more than we give them credit for. if we truly understood how we are created. And so for those of you, some of you have grandchildren, talk to them. Talk to them. You might be amazed that one of you might be like the people that end up on these television shows where your grandchild begins to tell you stories about 2 lives ago when they were some other thing. It happens all the time, friend. The point is, many people miss out. We force that out of our children. Every child who's ever said a word about an imaginary friend was speaking to the spirit realm. And because we don't believe in the spirit realm, because Christianity told us that's where demons reside, we totally destroy the spirituality of a child. Inevitably, as that child grows, I believe even at 18 months, 2 years, which is really kind of while they're being programmed, is why you see so many things. And that's why little children like that can watch and can see spirit realms in the bedroom, and they have imaginary friends, and that happens a lot. That's the most prominent form of a child exposing to you that but we then have a problem because we say, well, that child's gifted. And the truth is, folks, is that every human child that's ever born is that. Some are encouraged in it, some are forced in it, some have their own things that they came into life. There's a lot that you can find out that they know scientifically about that there are people who do not even come into their spirit until that baby is already born out of the mother. And what you will find in those situations is the baby and the mother are the couple that you know about, where the kid has no desire about anything to do with their mother because that child never had an in-the-womb connection. And so there's really a lot of wisdom out there that they hide from you and that you don't care to go look for. And when you begin to look to see the spirit world is real, you begin to see that the spirit world is real. So a lot of these things that he's talking about, personal judgments and hatreds, are all things that I was programmed to dislike black people. I was told that they're bad and white people are good, and every now and then you'll meet one that's okay, and I found lots of them that were okay, and I found a lot that fit the other stereotypes, so that's another story. And so, but when we begin to leave that off, then we begin to look at people authentically for who they are. Martin Luther, one of my favorite spiritual speakers, he really summed the whole sum. He was a mystic as well. They don't tell you that. He was a Baptist preacher, but he wasn't. He knew infinitely more than Baptists know. But he said this. He said that he believed in a world when one day, and it's coming. This split is what he's talking about. That there would be a time when people would begin to judge each other based on who they were as people, and that's coming, friends. You are neither inherently bad nor inherently good, no matter what the outside peripherals are. When you begin to understand that you are light, but you also have to accept that responsibility. And so personal judgments and hatreds can find lodgment, for it is filled to overflowing with tenderness and love. Yeah. Wow. Absolutely, absolutely amazing what the power of love can do. And God is love, and in God is nothing but love, and there is nothing except love to God. And that's absolutely amazing. Now, let's put ourselves in alignment and look at the responsibility that gives us. If I'm going to align myself with Source, then I must be light and I must be love. I have no option. Any other thing, and you've gone to the right or you've gone to the left. So if you really want to walk in the amazing experience that's coming, dear friend, it's time for you to get in alignment with Source. It's time for you to become light. It's time for you to become love. It's time for you to begin to put away all those hatreds that you were programmed with and begin to stand in space. And that's something that you'll hear a lot of if you continue on, is that oftentimes we're to take up space. A lot of times we're not there. In fact, sometimes I'm learning, I haven't always lived this for sure, but I am learning that it's less and less important for my input with people, especially that aren't interested in the truth. And it goes kind of back to what Alan Watts says. How long are you going to continue to try to align with people that don't align with your frequency? You can't do it. Maybe there's somebody in your life, a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, mom, dad, and your whole life you've always tried to please them and it never works. And you can't figure out, well, why don't they love me like they do my brother and sister? And now that we understand how souls coming in, because that could have all been established before you ever became a human. Who you would, who you wouldn't, how you will, how you won't. And so if some of you have experienced that, maybe you've been the outcast child, just let it go. Forgive, because they don't know who they are either, and forgive them. Find out inside of yourself, believe inside of yourself that you are wonderful, amazing, you are light, you are exactly what Yeshua said you were, and begin to focus on that and let that other stuff, all that past pain, let it go. It's just going to keep your frequency down. I shared with you guys 3 things that will stop you from this experience frequency shift that's going on faster than anything. And one of those is servitude or lack thereof, serving other people. The other is love, and of course love covers everything. And then the third one is forgiveness. If you have a parent that hurt you, you can recognize that maybe they were doing you a service. And that's kind of been a breath taker right there for me, that maybe they did this as a service to you. I mean, just what? Ponder if this is true and you wrote a contract before you came in to be a human. You wrote a contract that you needed somebody in your life to learn the lesson that you needed to learn. You had to have somebody who treated you horrible. Well, in the spirit realm, you accepted that. Because why? Because you're spirit. You know all the answers to everything anyway. But now bring that into this life, and now that's been taken away from you, and you don't know all the answers, and that's on purpose. Because how could you ever truly know the feeling of being hated by someone that you loved so much? How could you ever experience that knowing that that's what you're experiencing? Which was always my contention in Christianity, that the Bible says that Yeshua had to be a human. Well, see, now I understand why when we understand the metaphysics. He couldn't have come in and been God. He had to come in and experience humanity from the level of humanity. Because why else would he have come to a school that he already knows all the answers to? We don't send children that we call them savants and they go from the 2nd grade to the 12th grade because they don't need the rest of that. They already got it. Well, Yeshua coming in and needing all of that had to be an important point. He suffered like all human kids. He got in trouble like all human kids. Did he have some enlightenment and peace? But there's people alive now that have those things. So that in itself isn't so strange or mystical either. So anyways, dig on this. For it is filled to overflowing with tenderness and love. And so just ask yourself, am I filled to the overflowing with tenderness and love? Or am I that same old mean, crotchety person who's hard-hearted and doesn't care about other people and self-centered, and the list can go on? It sees no evil. So there's a question to ask yourself. Do I really look at people and all I can see is the bad that I see? Because we're supposed to look at people and see them for what they are and still love them anyways. And only as men succeed in seeing no evil in others will they become free from sin and sorrow and suffering themselves. So when you begin to think about that, many of you have cried out for things and you haven't gotten them because you refuse to give them. There's really a huge synergistic piece that goes with this. Unforgiven people who won't forgive do not get forgiveness. The scripture is very clear and tells us that. James told us several things along that line. And so he says, if men only understood that the heart that sins must sorrow, that the hateful mind tomorrow reaps its barren harvest. The mirror. Weeping, starving, resting not, nor sleeping. Tenderness will fill their being. They would see the pity seeing if they only understood. And that's very appropriate. That could very easily be somebody's life mantra, and I promise you it would serve them quite well. So the sixth evening, he says, to stand face to face with truth, to arrive. One of the places that we can do that is really, it's the whole mirror concept. Stand face to face with truth. What if you could stand and look at yourself, and I'm not talking now through the physical mirror, I'm talking about looking at yourself through the spiritual mirror. And what if you really could be honest about who you really are? Do you realize most people will never attempt to do that? And it's only through doing that that you can ever find healing. And so to stand face to face with truth, to arrive after innumerable wanderings and pains at wisdom and bliss. Not to be finally defeated and cast out, but to ultimately triumph over every inward foe. So does it give you some significance now when Paul says we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against the spirit forces that exist inside of us? Namely yourself. Such is man's divine destiny. And so, dear one, we weren't taught this in Christianity, but your destiny inevitably is to find the light and to then become the light. And even those who miss this graduation time of the dimensional separation, 24,000 years, there will be another one. And some of you that miss it, if as far as humans on this earth that miss it, some of them will miss it, will make that one. And you say 24,000 years. Well, if you move outside of this incarnation, friend, there is no time. Past, present, and future are all happening right now. Because in reality, there is only now. Can any of you go back and show me your past? Huh? I mean, you can go back and you can take pictures, and you can go back and talk about memories. But can you take me time-wise? Can you take me back to your past? And the answer is no, you can't. And you know what else you can't do? Can you please take me to your future so I can see what will become of you? And did you know the answer to the question? You can't do that either. Now, outside of this dimension that we exist in the fifth dimension, you will see all three. And they're all happening at the same time. If that doesn't blow your socks up, I don't know what will. But it's simply just a mental thought to switch dimensions. What you're going to see happen here on this earth amongst people is there's going to be people just like myself who learn how to at will switch dimensions right here, right now. It's going on all the time. I've seen some little glimpses of it, but I haven't experienced it. Brother Cliff, a guy that's with us there in Austin, Texas, he got a chance when he was younger to shift dimensions, and he ended up in another place and in another world. He was a live human being. He didn't have a near-death experience. He had an out-of-body mental picture that manifested. That's a switching of a dimension. And so for each of us, we should be learning how to do those things at will. And we will, as time goes along. I fully believe that many of you will learn how to switch dimensions, and you will shift gears, and you will see yourself. Another thing that you can take if you want to start seeing some of these spiritual things manifest. You ever been in a situation and you knew somebody and you might have known them really well, but you could swear to God that some days they were like a different person? Can I tell you the truth? They are. You have encountered someone who has shifted dimensions on you. They've moved timelines. And this stuff seems so foreign to us because we don't know anything about it. But I have seen pieces of this function in my past life and had no clue about what was going on, and I've seen them recently as well, where you just click, and it's like you click out of this life and you step into another life. Still you, but a different person. And so, for those of you that are spiritually hungry, there's so much for us to experience. It's going to be amazing, quite honestly. It already is, but it will be more. And so it's the inward foe that we have to triumph over. Such is man's divine destiny, such his glorious goal. And this every saint, sage, and savior has declared. Indeed. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile. Ponder that for a second. How many people, the more that I listen as I grow and as I learn, the more I listen to the things that come out of people's mouths, and no wonder they're having such a time. You know, when you see somebody, I used to wonder, and it's been kind of a weird part of my journey too, because I haven't realized how significant I am, no matter how many times sources told me that. But have you ever been in a situation, let's say you walk in a store somewhere or you go to work or something, and you have somebody and somebody says something to you about how you doing today, and you offer them a smile and a big boisterous, I'm wonderful, I'm amazing, I'm blessed, I'm any of those things. Don't be surprised if you do that, because I feel that inside. If you do that, don't be surprised if you don't find them offended by that. And I've been watching this for a long time. When you are the light that comes, darkness will always be offended by your light. So at the same time that you will find peace with who you are, you also have to be conscious that there will be other people who don't like that person. And so for some of you, as you begin to grow and as you begin to light, and of course you know how that stuff always works, right? You're a mile high and somebody says, how you doing today? And you go, well, I'm great. The world is beautiful. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day, right? And then they go with some negative comment, and what happens? What are they trying to do? They're trying to pull the plug on you because your frequency is high and they're offended by your frequency. I'm going to say this to you again, and even if you don't understand me, at least you heard the words. Frequency is felt amongst everyone. You are either a high frequency or you are a low frequency. If you are a low frequency, a high frequency is foreign to you. If you are a high frequency, a low frequency is very undesirable to be around. So just hold on to that, because we are creating the reality that we live in, and it's directly tied to the frequency that we're functioning in. That is to say, you can have everything and be unhappy, or you can have nothing and be so gloriously full of bliss and rapture that people can't stand to be around you because there's no negativity in you. What's the deal? It doesn't matter what you have. It's about who you are. And so for each and every one of you, I expect to start seeing some changes. Friends, you're going to wake up and something is going to hit you between the eyes, and you're going to find joy and happiness that you have never felt before. Some of you already have, and I know that. I've talked to you and I hear the peace that's in you that didn't always exist in you. And maybe you lived a lot of years being very unpeaceful, and all of a sudden something has changed, and you're not hung up with all the things that you're not constantly everything's negative and all of those things. So I'm just telling you, get ready, because this ain't no fake. This is the real deal. And the people who grab a hold of it and will attune their minds, put their intention on alignment, they will experience everything that you've heard me say today. And so I hope you're excited, because I'm extremely excited. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile. Those are low frequency, dense reactions. And commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life. And as he adapts his mind to that regulated factor, he ceases to accuse others as the cause of his condition. Just so you can get a glimpse of the density that we live in, that's why cancel culture is what it is. That is a belief system of very low density. And it's very uncomfortable to people who have a higher frequency. It's like, I don't want to be around that. Y'all, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to hear what you had to say. There's a reason for that. So, you cease to accuse others as the cause of your condition. Can I tell you a truth that you might not have figured out? Did you know that it's not Donald Trump's fault? I'll just set that straight for you. Donald Trump is not the cause. The cause is the mirror that they're reproducing, is a picture of who they are inside. That's pretty huge. And so he ceases to accuse others as the cause of his condition, and he builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts. Could you easily make the conversion from strong and noble thoughts to higher consciousness? See, if you'll put that together with higher consciousness, what you will do is you will, for yourself, build a reasonable understanding of what does this concept higher consciousness mean? Does higher consciousness do low moral things? And the answer is unequivocally no. I told you about yourself. As you begin to contact and as you begin to confront and as you begin to make acknowledgement of higher self, things that you've been doing that are low frequency will on their own begin to cease. And your mind will begin to say, that's low consciousness and I don't want that in my timeline. And so little by little, you'll push those things out of your life. Whatever it was. I could list the name of every sin that you know of. Okay? Every sin that you commit inevitably will come to you. And if you are in fact seeking true peace and higher consciousness from source and from your light self, you inevitably will conquer that thing simply by acknowledging that it exists and then releasing it. And it disappears like the dirt. There's nothing hard about it. Greg Allman deciding that he was going to quit heroin because it was going to kill him was nothing but one thought, friend. No different than you deciding you needed to go to the store to buy another pack of cigarettes to kill yourself some more. It's just a decision. All you had to do is say, no, I'm not going to do that. I choose not to do that. I don't want it in my timeline. And that's how simple it is to stop every addiction that exists. But that also has to function inside here. And so we don't always function there like we should. We're not always functioning at the highest frequency. But as we grow, we get better at it. As we grow and practice, we learn how to recognize things faster. Many of the things I'm sharing with you are things I'm starting to recognize in my own journey. And if you're not recognizing them yet, if I can sow a seed, hopefully somebody will go, hey, I recognize that's what he was talking about, and here it is today in my own life. That's not a synchronicity, nor is it a coincidence, just so you know. I stood in the rain for 2 hours with a guy the other day, and we had a most amazing blessing, though we did get cold and we did get soaked like rats. But it was so amazing to watch the transformation that's going on in him. It's really crazy. There are people who this is just happening to. They don't have to go to church. They don't know anything. In fact, he was very much against religion, and yet he is awakening without any other perceived stimuli. So this person ceases to accuse others. Other people are not your problem. You are your problem. And builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts, so they raise their consciousness, ceases to kick against circumstances. Sometimes we just need to recognize that the circumstances are what they are for a reason, and begin to see what can I take out of this. What can I take out of this circumstance that I'm going through? What was the purpose that the universe sent this circumstance to me? Was it simply my mirror? Is it an outworking of my karma? Is it something that I did wrong to someone and this is coming back to me? Is it that that's the turmoil that I'm going on inside? Or on the other side, maybe sometimes because the universe is prone to test us, maybe the universe is sending. Maybe for some of you, let's say, I've had some of these over the past. One was I was supernaturally healed for cigarettes. I've had horrible lung issues most of my life, and yet I choose to smoke more than a steam train. And I was healed supernaturally driving down the road one day 5 years after I quit smoking, and out of the blue there's a cigarette sign that goes up, and a voice said to me, I heard it. The voice said to me while I was driving my pickup truck on Highway 71 in Austin, Texas, and I'm driving and I see this sign and I look at it, and the voice says to me, don't you want a cigarette? Now that was before I ever even went to Christian church, and I thought that was kind of strange that some voice would say to me over something that I had seen victory over. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we conquer, but those things will creep back up, and you sometimes have to continue to prove. The universe wants us to prove that we have conquered. And so when you're not, you see, because here's the thing, a low consciousness mind is not aware, right? When you're around low consciousness people, they do things, and if you went up and told them, hey man, you see what you just did? And you don't even recognize it? And they would go, huh? I watch it go on all the time. That's a low conscious person. They're not conscious of their behavior. They're not conscious of their action or how that action affects other people. High consciousness people are not like that, friends. They go, well, if I do that to that person, then this is what's going to happen, and this is what's going to happen. And so now if I do it, then I did it on purpose. And if I don't do it, I did it because I have understanding. High consciousness. And so he ceases to accuse others for the cause of his condition and builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts. I am peace, and I am light, and I am love. That's what I am, not what I used to be, what I am. Ceases to kick against circumstances, but begins to use them as aids to his more rapid progress. Remember, all of this has to be learned, and then we have to practice it, and then we have to master it, and then we have to test it, and then we get tested even along the way after the fact. And as a means of discovering the hidden powers and possibility within yourself, and I'm going to say to every one of you today, no matter what you think about yourself, you're infinitely more powerful than you think. If you are at the highest ascended level, you still could never in your mind imagine how powerful we are. And so we've all been down here beat to death, living in low frequency, wondering why life sucks, and it only sucks because we were told that that's what life was supposed to be, right? You come in, you live, you get in trouble, you make mistakes, hopefully you learn something, and then guess what? The prize on the cake is you get to die and then go be judged. Yippee! Yay! That don't sound like so much fun to me. So if that's what you want, then may you have your wish. But as for me, I have no wish. At least of that. So blessings to you guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Source is real and wonderful and amazing, and you are too. We're not going to lose. I don't know who all. I don't know how many. I hope that they're wrong in their estimation, and I hope the number is 85% of the people enlightened and their consciousness actually clears. That's what I hope happens. How wonderful it would be to, could you imagine living in the true heaven where there is nothing but peace and everything is like it's supposed to be, and all of the things that we've dreamed about and wished, maybe you know, about people's behaviors and what the world is like. I can't imagine what it would be like to have no strife for any reason, nor would strife be allowed, because high consciousness people do not allow that stuff around them. That's why they leave, because they can't tolerate being around low frequency anymore. So, blessings to each and every one of you. Some of you I know are feeling it. We'll be back if Source wills on Wednesday. Peace and shalom. Namaste.